Greetings, heathens and witches. I'm John. This is Julie, and we are here for the Horn
and Cauldron podcast.
Yeah, so this is episode 3. Yay! It's no longer 2020 no more, guys. What's up?
That's right.
Small
we
victories.
made it. Sort of.
And yeah, so today is 10 tips for a magical new year. So we're gonna go through these fairly quickly, but I think it should be good.
Yeah. And these are tips for both people who have been practicing for a while, but also for all of you baby witches out there. And you can call yourself baby witches, but like I'd really like to call you apprentices because that sounds super magical. And
it does sound better.
Yeah, I'm all into sounding like as bougie witch as possible. So our first tip is meditate often. So because 2020 was 2020, I'm sure we've all heard about the benefits of meditation. I am not going to go through all of those.
No, we're not.
But we can all pretty much agree that meditation is a component of a healthy lifestyle at this point in time.
And also, meditation isn't just like whatever, like it's more than just what you think of meditation is. You can meditate in a whole bunch of different ways. There's like a bajillion apps out there for you to look up.
We've got a whole show planned on it.
Yeah, we're gonna do individual shows on pretty much all of these things.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, let's get into meditation.
Yeah, so meditation is not just important because it's a component of a healthy lifestyle, but meditating often helps you to really reach a state of gnosis, which is when your mind's focused on one thing. When you're working with your magic, it's very important to have that because when you're working magic and like your mind is scattered, you are like thinking about like a bunch of different things, you're not like focused or honed in on it. It's really easy for that to negatively affect your practice and your spells. Some spells won't work at all if you're not paying attention because you're not really putting that singular intention focus towards it. Or they might, work and not work well, or I mean, they could like backfire.
Yeah. Well, and it's more than just your magical practice. I mean, if you're trying to divine something, you want to be able to focus and see clearly. But at the same time, if you're just trying to do your job or rake the leaves or do the dishes or do the laundry or something, if you're jumping all over the bloody place in your head, you're not focusing. And when you're not focusing, you risk making mistakes.
Yeah.
And whether those mistakes are magical or are you just dropping your favorite pint glass in the sink or shattering a jar full of tincture that you were working on because you're using a pair of fucking pipe wrench to get into that shit.
It was not a fun time. Not a fun
right
time.
Yeah.
That Game of Thrones wine, I'm kind of sad that stuff was pretty alright.
Yeah, I'm pretty sad about that also. But hey, you didn't have to pick glass out of a wound, so
yeah.
I did.
So there are a lot of different ways to meditate, as you said. Just real quick, my favorite way to meditate is what I like to call color breathing. So what I do is instead of trying to focus on not focusing on anything,
then the blue spray paint can, then the yellow spray paint can.
Breathe
Don't
in
huff paint.
Whatever color I feel like I need in that moment. And like I know there's a lot of stuff about color magic, and that's even without getting into that. Like sometimes thinking about like the blue of a beautiful blue sky on like a nice day for a walk is the thing that I want. Or, like the color of like a ripe nectarine that I'm eating. Like sometimes like I just pick a color and I inhale that color through my nose, and then I exhale the color that I feel like is like negativity and like bad stuff. And those colors, both sides of it change like almost every time. For me, that is my quick tip on meditating, is try what I like to call color breathing. What's yours?
So for me, quick tip on meditating, and I do a lot of meditating. I meditate often and have for the greater portion of my life. Honestly, my favorite thing to do is find some good music, and it doesn't have to be like soft ass. Sometimes I meditate and listen to Enya. Sometimes I meditate and listen to like the soundtrack for the Doom video game, which is just like guitars and monsters screaming and shit.
Yeah.
So like whatever sounds you want, whatever. But like get some music on, put on some music, and just sort of like sit in a place. I like to sit on the couch or on the ground somewhere, and just like sit in a place and just listen to music, and try to think of nothing.
Yeah.
while you're
tough.
listening to that music.
Yeah, that's tough.
It is certainly tough in the beginning. It takes practice.
Yeah.
Like everything, literally everything, it takes practice.
Yeah, but if you start small and work your way up, you'll find that you'll be able to do that. That's something a lot of people say they have a hard time with, is like, I don't, like, you know, you feel like you have to meditate for like 10 minutes or whatever the time frame is. Like, start small and work your way up. Try it for 1 minute and increase from there. Like, set a timer on your watch. If you've got an Apple Watch, it has an app that's called Breathe that you can use for
meditations.
That. Yeah,
Find a guided meditation that you like. I found a Scottish dude, this was like in high school, on YouTube, who had some guided meditations that were fucking great, dude. Like, I've considered doing some, actually, is recording like a 1 minute and like maybe a 5 minute and then maybe like a 15-minute guided meditation.
Yeah, that would be
just
fun.
like some chimes and some waves in the background sort of noise.
Have to have you guide my meditations.
What's up?
What's up?
Yeah,
that was a sex joke.
That was a sex joke. Yeah, if you're listening to this, you can't see us nod our heads when we say "What's up?" So fucking deal with that shit. I forgot to use the good microphone.
So that's tip number 1. Meditate often. So tip number 2 is set goals and intentions. And this one is kind of like a weird one. So I'm actually not really an advocate of New Year's resolutions. I think that they just really make it so that people are setting themselves up for failure and sadness and really not making it easy for people. So I don't really advocate going for resolutions, but that doesn't mean that you can't have a goal for the year, right? So and you should set goals and intentions both broadly for yourself and for individual workings. So think about, like, what is it that you want to accomplish this year, be it magical or mundane. So maybe, you know, you want to, like, you know, have a ritual with every Sabbath, or you want to learn how to do kitchen witchery, or, you know, on the mundane side of things, maybe you want to learn a language or something like that. Think about what it is that you want to accomplish, but in a way where you're not setting yourself up for failure. Saying, I'm going to go to the gym every single day, and you don't go to the gym, that's setting yourself up for failure. You know, it's okay to not make the big goal, but you should still make the goal so it takes a little bit of challenge. If you're already going to the gym every day, setting your goal for going to the gym every day, not a super helpful goal. So try to make your goals something that's stretching you a little bit, but not too much.
Yeah, that's achievable but not unreasonable.
Yeah.
That being said, I'm of a slightly different opinion on this. I think that you should always have some sort of unachievably absurd dream somewhere in the back of your head. Think about it like that pair of jeans that we all have. We can admit to having this pair of jeans. That pair of jeans that's like 5 sizes too small because you wore them like freshman year of high school or some bullshit like that. Whenever the heck you were like at your smallest, and they're in the back of your closet in a little dream box full of hopes and prayers, right? Buried underneath all your winter jackets or whatever the fuck, right? And it's always one, right? And you have it, and it's like, it's okay to have that, and like I want to lose, you know, 100 pounds this year. And I'm like, listen, if you want to lose 100 pounds this year and you stick with it and you do it, good the fuck for you, dog. Like, no hate, 0% hate, right? But at the same time, like, you know, I don't like gyms. I would rather work out, like, just at home with stuff, right? That's not the way, I'm not really, like, a machine workout kind of person. And, like, so for me, setting a goal to go to a gym every year would be absurd. Yeah. Regardless of the fact that there was a fairly large swath of time where I went to the gym twice a day.
That's insane.
Right? Like, every morning before work and every evening after work, like, independent of my runs and stuff. But so it's one of those things where, like, you know what place you're in the world and where you want to go and what you can and can't achieve. So you need to, like, move intelligently with those things.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, you know, think about the stuff that you want to accomplish this year, your goals, and then think about how your magic can help you to accomplish that. Is there some sort of ritual that you can create, some sort of spell that you can cast, maybe a jar you can put together, or some sort of amulet or sigil or something to help motivate you? I was reading, back on the fitness thing, I was reading last year, there was a guy who was doing fitness sigils to help keep him on track with going to the gym and working out. That his goal was to like, you know, be able to lift like 150 pounds or something like that. And he was doing like sigils for it to help keep him motivated to do fitness. So even if it's something that's mundane, there are perhaps ways that your magical practice can help you with that.
Yeah, of course, right? And if your goal is to become independent in business, and you once a week doing some sort of a magical practice, even if it's some sort of a magical practice, a spell you're casting or a jar you're creating or whatever the heck, or cards you're drawing, to keep you focused on your business, then that's good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So like, you don't necessarily have to like do us a money spell so that way your yearly goal of not being poor at the end of the year comes true, right? Because part of the magic is the doing. Like, you got to do something.
Yeah.
You know, so like that's that realistic side of it. Is that you want to like set achievable and realistic goals that aren't absurd. If you're 145 pounds, you can't lose 100 pounds or you're a corpse. It defeats the purpose, right?
Yeah.
So like, setting a goal that's unachievable, has no value, and relying solely on magic to achieve your goal when in other walks of life you're not pushing yourself towards that goal also isn't feasible and isn't going to work. And I mean, as obvious as it sounds to say that, one, some people need to hear that, and two, right, you need to be aware of the fact that it's called magical practice for a reason. You have to practice it. You have to do it constantly, and you have to work at it. And you know what? If today you're doing a thing and in a week you read a book or you listen to our stupid faces or you're doing something else or you just have a thought and you're like, holy shit, everything I've been doing is wrong. I want to do it this way now. That's fine.
Yeah, there's nobody there to judge you
There's
for
evolution. There's maturity. This isn't a church. This isn't a structure, right? This is a series of beliefs to help you sort of benefit yourself.
Well, unless
and
you
a series
want
of
it to be a
practices.
structure.
Well, and you can add structure to it, but the structure isn't from an exterior standpoint.
Yeah.
Right? That's interior. You build your own walls, right? Don't let other people wall you in. Is kind of what I'm saying with that.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah.
And don't let yourself wall yourself in. If like that's a thing, if you're going down a self-destructive path, you know, like steer clear of it and have your practice help you steer clear of that.
Yeah, totally. And that can really be like a helpful catalyst to help keep you, you know, on track with that.
Totally.
As far as intentions go, a lot of people, you know, kind of ask like, what are intentions? So an intention is what you want to get out of whatever magical working you're doing. So and that's where that kind of meditation comes in, because you really want to have that focus on your intentions. And to do that, you want to really like speak clearly about what your intention is specifically, and you want to visualize and invoke what you want to attract. So like some like quick tips on intentions, like some good intentions, like good intention things. So like, let's say you want to do like a protection spell, a good or a well-worded intention, that is not is I am protected from other people's bad energy. Or if you're using a deity or an entity to help you with this, you can petition them and say, protect me from other people's bad energy. But an intention that's not as good, so not bad, but not as good, is I will be protected from other people's bad energy when this spell is done. And that one's kind of tricky because you're really putting it in that like law of attraction sort of mindset. And when you're saying I will be, really what you're saying is like, I want this to happen, but like I don't want to put like a date or a time on it. And you could say like now and you know and then, but like let's be realistic, like entities aren't going like it's, you know, it's like 2:45 on a Tuesday, better get that thing going. You know, so you want to speak as if it's already there. You want to self-reinforce that you're going to manifest the intention that you desire. So you want to be careful about those intentions, because there's always the monkey's paw sort of effect too. So think about it before you start, invoking things.
Try not. Do.
Yeah. And then also, just going back again to the...
by the way. Yeah.
Just going back to the, goals part, be realistic with your intentions as well. So, do you want to do a full ritual for each Sabbat? Well, that does take planning, and that takes research, and that takes time to even prepare for it, let alone actually doing the thing. So if you've never done that before, you have to think about the commitment that you're making to it.
Yeah.
And then on the flip side of that is, if you want to do a protection spell, and your intention is, I don't want bad things to ever happen to me. That's not realistic. Sometimes bad things just happen.
Yeah.
So don't put yourself into a place with either your goals or your intentions where you're setting yourself up to go oh, I'm not going to get that done.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? Part of that is that, if you say you want to do a full ritual for the blots during the year, then 2020 happens and you can't have people over, and there's a shortage of this, that, or the other thing, then you can still do rituals. You just find another way, right? Whether that's over a Zoom call or doing them privately, and just closing your circle up, or preparing the ritual and doing all that kind of stuff, and then writing it up and sending it in an email, and having your friend group or your coven or your practicing partners or whatever do it in their own private spaces, because you guys don't have the necessary whatever to do it digitally,
or
through a Zoom
scaling
meeting
it down.
or whatever.
Instead of doing this big fancy ritual with all these different steps and things, just scale that down.
Yeah, approach things realistically, and sort of roll with the punches is the best way to put that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, next up is your sacred space. So a lot of people post pictures of their altars. We do that. We totally get it. Here's our altar.
Yeah, it's behind
us.
Yeah, it's dope.
The whole area.
It's a lot of plants.
This is a really good time to set up, if you don't have one already, or to clean out your sacred space. And I'm going to call it a sacred space as opposed to an altar, because an altar really has this connotation to it.
Well, it doesn't have to be an altar, man. It could just be a bit of area underneath a tree where within you hanging out and meditating or doing magic or whatever the fuck.
It could be
whatever
stuff
space,
on your windowsill.
Yeah, the idea behind something like set up or clean out your sacred space is that sort of show that space the respect it's due.
Yeah, I try to clean and rearrange my sacred space with every Sabbath. Not on the Sabbath, but around the Sabbath. Because the Sabbaths have specific dates, but, I'm not super tied to those dates.
Ours for, with each Sabbath, we change our space to sort of fit that, whether that's an increase of a product or a thing or a color or whatever the fuck.
Or just seasonality.
Yeah.
Or, because we got some new pretty trinkets.
Yeah, we actually change ours frequently.
Yeah, so we change it pretty frequently. And the reason I'm calling it a sacred space as opposed to an altar is I feel like an altar is fairly limiting. And for people who are in the broom closet, I get it. I have been in the broom closet before. I was in the broom closet for a very long time. And if you feel like you can't really do any of your magic, you can't have that stuff because your family isn't okay with it, or your roommates might say something, or you have cats, or something like that, just make it your sacred space. And you can really make that whatever you want. Your sacred space can be as difficult as you want it to be. It can be pared down and minimalistic. It can be super extravagant and take up a whole dresser like we have behind us.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want with it. It's your sacred space. And essentially, your sacred space should be a place that you can put your magical artifacts, if you're using those. Nod to you chaos witches out there. Or things...
I guess you could put your chaos there.
You just like, you put like a little picture of like Jeff Goldblum when he's doing the butterfly thing from Jurassic Park and he's talking about chaos.
I mean, yeah. You just leave the necessary things that, like, if it rolls together wrong, shit's gonna start a fire or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or things that you love that make you feel witchy. There are things on my altar that are not necessarily magically connected, but, like, I love them. They make me feel witchy. They make me feel good when I look at it. It makes me want to spend time just, like, sitting quietly at my altar and just, like, enjoying it.
That's 100% what my shit is. Listen, I just have some stuff. I like stuff. Hey, look at this stuff. I got a bunch of fucking stuff.
Yeah, so what kind
that's
of, like...
really the easiest way to do that.
Yeah, so what kind of stuff do you have on your altar? Like, as a quick tour, like, what do you have?
So, quick no-camera tour, and we'll do a altar tour at some point in time on social media. Follow us on social media, at NerdJive and at Goddess Jules. We're fucking everywhere. But, no, for me, it's like rocks and like dried flowers and like crystals and like wax. I've got a bunch of like varying degrees of rocks. Like some are like very nice like pillars that I've bought from like rock stores. And some of them are just like, that rock was kind of dope in the woods while I was doing a hike. Really, honestly. And then like some dried flowers, and then I have just like some stuff that's sort of like vaguely historical to me. Like stuff that I have like an old knife that's like just like rusted to shit. That's like it's not like a ritual knife or anything. It's just like an old iron knife that I found with a wooden handle. And I have like a piece of driftwood that I carved into a pipe that I use for incense, for like cone incense, so that way it like drifts out just like as like a fog layer on my altar. Very pretty with dried flowers everywhere.
It's very nice.
It's very nice, yes. But so like for me, it's just about like what decorations you sort of like and feel like you want in that space, and I replace this shit and rearrange it constantly. Like almost every time I use it, something's being moved to a different ass place. But that's just the way that I do mine. What about your stuff?
So I also have like a lot of those things. Like I started to become a patron of Aphrodite later or I guess I want to say earlier this year, but it's
patronizing.
I started patronizing. It just sounds negative when
you started patronizing Aphrodite.
That's I started worshiping Aphrodite in 2020, and one of the things that I wanted to do was I wanted to have a statuette of her on my altar. So I made it from Fimo clay, and it sits on like a pretty piece of fabric with like rose petals and
pretty fabrics. Yeah,
pretty
Keep
fabrics.
An eye out for that shit.
And it sits on like rose petals and stuff. I have like a goblet and a little weird silver dish that I got, and I use those for offerings because I generally keep an offering on there. I have like some crystals that I've gotten from a variety of places. One of them is like a labradorite orb because labradorite is like my jam. And just like a couple of things. There's like a
one
skull.
Of my wooden moons.
Yeah, I've got one of your wooden moons.
I have a wooden
like
moon also.
Skull that I got from like a Halloween store, and I've just got like, stuff that kind of like matches the season. So like a pretty feather I found on the ground, some shells from the beach. Right now I've got like a little tiny like Christmas tree back there. So it's just kind of like seasonal stuff. So really like there's no like necessary template that you need for your altar. But if I were to say, like, if you wanted for your sacred space, like if you wanted like a quick blueprint of stuff to put on your sacred space, I would say any crystals that you're working with, some sort of vessel that you can put offerings on. For those of you that are in the broom closet, maybe like have a little snack in your room and then just like leave that plate on your sacred space. It's a very low-key way of doing that.
A shot glass is a fucking fantastic thing to like hold an offering into. If you can't buy something specific. I did that for a very long time and still occasionally do that. It can hold both liquids and solids. It's small. It's easy to deal with. You know, that's
Totally.
that's like a little secret
Yeah.
one. But
if you can burn candles, like a candle would be good, but I
Candle
recommend
holder.
that you have it like in a holder or like one of those jar candles.
Be fire safe. We live in California.
Yeah,
if you
be
can't burn
fire
a candle,
safe.
get candle lights. I have a bunch. I bought like a fucking shitload of these LED candle
Light
bulbs.
Yeah.
Yeah, like light bulbs, like regular screw-in light bulbs. And like I have this like dope. You can't see it in frame right now, but I have this like dope, like hanging knit thing that I like attach a bunch of shit to, and that was just like a bunch of cheap Amazon stuff.
Yeah, and you can
know?
also get like battery operated tea lights if you want to do something like that.
The digital candle
yeah.
space is pumping.
It's really great.
Yeah, so it's a good time
or
to
like
get
a
into
Himalayan
that.
salt lamp. That's another thing too.
Yeah.
That's really all that you need. You know, there's a lot of people that want to have a lot of stuff on their altar or feel that they need to have a lot of stuff on your altar. And if you want that stuff and can have that stuff, that is great. But if you can't do that stuff, or you don't want to do that stuff, or you don't really have any of that stuff yet, that's fine. It builds up over time. You know, just give yourself the grace.
Everybody's space is gonna look very different. I mean, like Julie and I's altars are supremely different.
Yes.
Right? They're like so different side by side. You know, and we have like a common space in the middle, but we sort of like differentiate our altars very different practices, very different sides of things. And, you know, it's just like, you know, it's all about like mutual respect and evolving, and especially with this, it's just like, you know what, you don't buy like a big old witchy house. You start with a big old house, and it becomes witchy with time, right? And that's the thing is like you just need to do what you're comfortable with and what you have available, and don't overstretch yourself. And with time, you'll slowly build up like a big old pile of rocks you have to deal with because you don't have enough space for them on your altar.
Yeah.
Or like too many tarot decks and a bunch more on the way from Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Because 2020 was like a bad year.
Well, speaking of that,
money.
that's like a really nice segue into our next point. Thank you for setting that up.
I didn't do it on purpose.
So our next tip is organize your supplies.
Yeah.
I mean, since you're cleaning everything out anyway, you might as well organize and put stuff away. Don't just shove things into a drawer
Take your
or
shit,
a box.
fucking clean it up.
Give care to the things that you use.
Clean up your shit.
Yeah, clean up your stuff.
It's-
Dust it.
Yeah, dust.
Get a baby
if it's
wipe or a
alive
bleach
shit
wipe.
or wooden, like unsealed wooden or porous shit, check it for mold. Check it for bacteria, like discoloration because you've had like gross shit going on.
Yeah.
Like I have like a raw wooden mushroom, like a big mushroom we got on one of our vacations. That's just unsealed, so it's just, you know, like it can get gross.
Yeah.
So like clean it up, and like, you know, this applies to everything in life, but most importantly to spaces like this. It's easy to lose shit. It's easy to drop shit. It's easy to break shit. That, you know, shit changes, as it were. You know, the 12 rules of shit.
Oh yeah.
But you just take care of it. Make sure that everything has a place, and, you know, like everything has a place, and every place has things.
And keep
you know?
things in the same place so that you can find them.
Don't lose it. You know, one of the things that we've learned over the last several years, we live in Northern California, and Northern California is a little crazy with being on fire. A little fiery right now. Last couple of years, right? So we have to evacuate about once a year at this point in time. We got to evacuate or whatever the fuck. And so part of that is like I have some like irreplaceably old and specialized books with regard to my craft, and so like I know where all of those are, so I can have them packed and ready to go.
And we actually have like a little magical go bag that sits near-ish to our altar space, so that way if something happens, we can just grab them real quick, shove them in that bag.
Dump your tarot cards that matter when, you know, and if you have, like, I have like a bunch of sets of tarot cards, and a bunch more on the way. Not proud, but kind of proud. But like, if you have a bunch of stuff, like, don't just put it in a pile somewhere. Like, have it be in a nice place and have it be organized, and just sort of take care of that sort of stuff. You're not gonna realize it until you're doing a thing and all of a sudden you feel like, oh, you want to do a tarot draw and you're looking for that one specific tarot deck that, you know, you're like vibing on at this moment that you haven't seen in 6 months.
Okay, where were we?
All right, I don't remember what the hell I was talking about because the camera did the thing and the time.
And then we
passed.
had to take a break and refill our drinks.
It's
so
fine. It's fine. Whatever.
Yeah.
Do the thing that I was just saying to do, assuming that I finished saying what it was to do.
To summarize that last point is start the new year fresh by giving your sacred space a deep clean and a dusting, or think about setting one up if you don't have one already.
Yeah, exactly. So before we move on to the next one, sponsor our fucking podcast. Right now, we're sponsoring ourselves, our own podcast.
That's right.
So yeah, visit our Etsy shop, Norgrove Enterprises.
That's right.
And follow our YouTube channel, youtube.com/nerdjive or whatever the heck. It's Nerdjive on YouTube. Just look it up. We do a bunch of stuff.
Yep.
We have a bunch of programs coming up. We're bringing reviews. We're still doing reviews, movie reviews. We have a bunch of cool movies we're reviewing. We're still doing Star Trek reviews. We're still doing Star Trek Thursdays. We're bringing in a vlog. We've named our house, and so we're doing like a house vlog.
Yep.
Sort of homesteady
That's all
style.
sort of about our life, or maybe homestead stuff, whatever we feel like.
Well, it's everything, right? It's all interconnected. And then wife Twitches. She's fucking twitchy.
I stream on
She
Twitch.
live streams on Twitch. She twitches. She got the Twitch. But and that's on Thursday, so watch that. So yeah, do all the things that make us part of your lives and then make us part of other people's lives. So that way
to
we
our
can make money doing that.
4 listeners. Hey, 4 listeners.
Yeah. You guys are the best.
In our life. We love you.
We do love you. You're the best. Yeah, thank you very much. So yeah, back at it.
So that takes us to tip number 5.
Tip number 5.
You don't need to label your magical practice.
Yeah, be cool with just kind of doing whatever you feel is right.
Magic in general and witchcraftery have many, many, many different subsets. And there's lots of posts, especially out there on social or videos, that proclaim, like, if you're a forest witch, these are the things you like. Or if you're a kitchen witch, you do this. Or a lunar witch or a plant witch or whatever. Don't feel like you need to squeeze yourself into that box. You know, you don't have to be the kitchen witch type. You don't have to be this type. If you want to, go ahead. But don't feel like you need to limit your craft by that. I mean, you can be a forest witch who lives in the city. You can be a sea witch who does lunar magic. You can be none of those witches. You can take some of those pieces from all of those.
You can also just do whatever the fuck you want, and then when you see that meme about forest witches, just be like, this is pretty funny. I'm gonna like this on Instagram, and that's cool. People sometimes take stuff like far more seriously than is.
I mean, I
fully
see
necessary.
those, and there's like, I don't know, there's like a million types of witches.
Oh,
but like, I see those, and I'm always like, oh, I wonder which one would be me. And then I look at it, and I'm like, that's me. I'm that kind of
all
witch.
Of them.
And then I go to the next slide, and I'm like, oh, that one's me too. I'm also that kind of witch. So it's totally okay to not label your practice or be that kind of witch. You can be whoever you want to be in your magical practice. Like, you can be eclectic, you can be very focused, and that's not just like the kitchen witch, forest witch thing. That's also going into more traditional, shall we say, branches of witchcraft, which are, you know, if you really like Wicca, you can be involved in Wicca. If you are a Christian witch, that's totally fine. Like, you can do what you want, and you don't need to feel like you have to have a box to define you in your magical practice. But also, if you feel that helps you in your magical practice, by all means, do that. Don't let somebody make your boundaries for you. If you're making boundaries, make them for yourself. And if you choose a path that you think looks really cool, you can change it anytime you want. When I first started getting getting involved in reading like magical stuff, there was really only books about Wicca out there. And so clearly I thought I was a Wiccan because I didn't know what else there was.
Yeah. Oh my god, dude. I remember when every book, that's, you're talking what, like early
90s.
Early 90s, yeah. When like every book you picked up was just like how Wicca stuff. I totally remember.
And there just weren't books out there otherwise.
I read so many of those books back then.
Yeah, so
as
like
a wee kid.
Yeah, so I thought, okay, well clearly I'm a Wiccan because of how that stuff works. And then over time I looked at it and was like, you know what, that's not really me. I don't actually really put myself in a box. Like, I am a witch who lives in a forest, yes. But I also do stuff with the moon. I also do a lot of kitchen witchery. So I'm a very eclectic witch and I like to do those things. But don't, just because I do those things, feel that you have to do those things or that you cannot do those things. And if you choose a path and you just kind of like don't feel it anymore, feel free to change that path anytime that you want.
Dude, so, yeah, always be evolving.
Yeah, always be evolving. What is that? A-B-E? Abe. Be Abe.
Yeah, dude. What do you think Abe Lincoln's... His first name was an acronym for Always Be Evolving Lincoln. That's
it. Always Be Evolving Lincoln. That was clearly what his parents named him.
Believe everything that you hear about Abe Lincoln. It's all true.
But don't believe everything that you read. That's our next point. That's
perfectly smooth transition again without knowing what's going on. Man,
yeah.
I am the right amount of drunk. That's what that is, guys.
So as Always Be Evolving Lincoln
touch the face of God.
Has famously said, don't believe everything you read on the internet.
That's true.
Thank you, Abe Lincoln.
Abe Lincoln did say that.
He did say that, yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of places that you can get information. And a lot of people, and this is really true in any space, not just the witchy space, but I'm going to say especially in the witchy space, because it's huge right now. Yeah. There's a lot of people who come across as experts and who maybe will even tell you that they are an expert. Mm-hmm. But the thing is you got to take that with a grain of salt. Yeah. Because really, it's just a compilation of what everybody knows.
Real quick grain of salt. We're not experts.
Yeah.
We are two jackasses in a house. This is two jackasses plus one house plus DSLR equals you're listening to our stupid fucking faces.
Yeah. So
all right, we're not experts. We're giving you guys advice. We're talking about a thing. That's the point here, is to build a community of like assholes who want to be like cool about stuff as opposed to judge jerks. No judge jerks in this place.
Yeah. And I mean, really what we're doing is we're just sharing our collective experiences.
Yeah.
And that's really what most people are doing, is sharing their experiences. And my experiences are different than John's experiences, are different than a lot of other people's experiences. And just because something worked well, like magically for me, doesn't mean that it will for you. Totally.
You know what? Think about something like practice in the form of books that you like. You can like Star Wars books, and I don't like Star Wars books. I like Star Trek books, and she doesn't like neither of those books. She wants fucking Twilight books or whatever.
No.
Whatever. I'm naming books.
You can't say that.
It's fair. She doesn't.
I want Lord of the Rings. I do not want anything to do with Twilight.
Lord of the Rings books, fine, whatever. That's fair, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. And nobody's being put down for it or anything like that. And you know what? There's a million people trying to sell you the secret to success or whatever, because remember, people want to make money. Right? I mean, that's the thing that moves the world round. And so you're going to have a lot of people that claim to be experts. And you're going to have a lot of people who aren't even claiming to be experts and are doing something with good intent, but maybe that thing isn't right for you. And be okay to disagree with those people. Julie and I have incredibly different forms of practice. And not only what we do, but the manner in which we do it. And so it's one of those things where, like, sometimes she'll be like, oh, look at these cards, what do you think about this, whatever. And sometimes I'll be like, oh, look at this, what do you think about this, whatever. And we'll do that. And sometimes it's like, hey, like, this is just what this is for me, man. Yeah. And it might mean something completely different to her, but it's like, this is what it means to me, and that's just what I'm feeling. So it's really the idea is like you know, listen to advice with a grain of salt, but like sort of be okay with disagreeing.
Yeah. Yeah, just because you really like what somebody is saying about something doesn't mean that you have to follow exactly what it is that they're saying.
Totally.
And really that is it's like really all about using your best judgment. So if somebody tells you to do something, you have to think about whether that thing should be done. You know, common sense does have a place in magic, but especially if you're dealing with fire or if you're talking about putting something in or on your body.
Yeah.
So
and if you're being shown something exemplified on the internet, listen, like we've all been around. We know photoshopping is a thing.
Yeah.
Like Iron Man, I'm not trying to blow people's minds here. Iron Man, Tony Stark, that's an actor and some CGI, guys.
Oh my God, what? I thought that was a real dude.
Right?
No.
But like real talk, right? Like you have seen the stupid videos on Facebook or YouTube or wherever where somebody's like putting ketchup on an apple and turning it gold or some fucking dumb shit like that, right? And it's like when you see somebody do something and they're telling you this is a great thing to do, if common sense dictates that that's a risk, specifically a fire risk.
Yeah, I think at this point, like we've all seen a video where somebody's trying to use fire to do something and it does not work out for them. Like the latest one that I saw that like sticks with me is these guys sitting around a table drinking and then they pour alcohol, like probably vodka, on their heads and then they light it on fire and then that guy has to light the head on fire of the guy next to him and then he can put out his flaming head. Guys, don't do that. Like think about that kind of stuff. And like I saw I've seen posts and I've seen TikToks about people putting like stuff in their candles, for instance. And you know, they're talking about putting herbs in your candles to help with your intentions and stuff, or to put offerings in your candle if you have candles for specific deities or entities you're working with. And I'm just gonna say it.
Don't put shit in candles.
Don't put stuff in candles because candles are fire and that's gonna light it on fire.
Yeah, listen.
Like,
if you have
on fire.
a fire pit outside in a safe area, not underneath a bunch of trees, and you want to like burn a thing, that's fine. That's in a safe place. If you have a fireplace set up or designed that can handle that sort of input, then you can do that sort of a thing. But a fucking candle from Target on your dresser drawers and you're putting a half a sheet of notebook paper on it because you're trying to burn an intention, you're risking a large fire.
Yeah.
I fully support you doing whatever the fuck you need to do to
and I fully support
do
fire.
your magical practice. And I have no problem with fire. Like our house is primarily heated by fire. I start fires good, dude.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and magically, I do a lot of work with fire. I like to do pyromancy, which is divination using fire and candles.
Totally. But you do it safely. You be safe. Oh my God, do not risk your life because you saw a thing on the internet. That's really the way you need to be thinking about that.
Yeah, don't put stuff in a candle. The next thing that that is common sense that I've been seeing a lot of people do, and again, this is like posts, and this is like TikToks, and this is like videos, but also like I've seen these water bottles that like are crystals, and you like have the crystal in the water bottle and you fill the water bottle and it gives you like crystal water, which helps with your, you know, to imbue whatever properties the crystal has in the water, which you then drink, so you get that, right? So that's fine if you want to do that. I'm not going to hate on that, but you need to do your research first. And that's because some crystals and stones are porous, first of all. So they have tiny holes in them. And some crystals and stones will dissolve in water. And some crystals and stones are toxic. So you got to make sure that what you're doing is safe when it comes to that.
Yeah.
And nobody's gonna hold your hand and make sure that crystal water bottle that you're buying is safe.
Yeah. Remember, an article you read online wants you to continue to read the article, so they're gonna say some crazy shit sometimes.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta have the wherewithal to, like, sort of question authority about this. Like, when you read one article and it says, like, drink fucking amethyst water, like, that shit's dope, or whatever, go on some forums, find another article, make sure that amethyst water won't kill you, because because legitimately it fucking might. But also, if the idea is to drink water with some tiny rocks in, one, tiny rocks might have bacteria on them. Like, you don't wash your rocks all the time.
You
right?
could also maybe choke on them if they're not, like...
And also, yeah, like, you might legit, like, be like, oh, I'm pumping this rock back, fucking whatever, rock in the throat. It's just dumb. Don't do it, right? Be
and that's
smart
also,
about this shit.
I mean, if you want to imbue your water with crystals, I mean, do the crystals next to the water.
Yeah.
Guide your intentions that way. And also, like, eating stuff. So, you know, don't eat stuff you shouldn't be eating. And I'm specifically going to focus on this wild trend of ingesting selenite. Selenite is beautiful. It's super pretty. It's very grounding. It's a nice all-purpose sort of thing. But I have recently seen a huge amount of things where people are telling you out there to grind your selenite into tiny pieces and then eat it so that you can be grounded. Don't do that. Selenite is a crystal, and at the microscopic level, it has tiny little burrs in it, and it can make you really sick. And it can be really bad for your insides. So if it's not food, don't eat it. And when you're going with herbs, make sure that those are also safe to eat. So, like, ivy is, like, English ivy, or just, you know, climbing ivy that you find outside. That is a great herb for protection. So if you want to get in that protection spell, don't make yourself a tea with ivy. It's toxic.
Yeah.
Don't do that to yourself.
Yeah.
And the same thing kind of goes with using, like, herbs that are not toxic. You know, they're not going to kill you on the outset, but they're not good for you either.
If you study herbalism, you know what herbs you can and cannot eat. If you do not study herbalism, but you are interested in it, begin by studying herbalism. So you know what herbs to eat and not to eat. Because don't poison yourself. I mean, really, let's be honest. Everything that we're saying right now is, if you see some shit on the internet, don't kill yourself about it.
Yeah. And the
that's
last one is moon and rainwater. So you can totally do moon water. You can totally do rainwater. All that stuff is great. But if you're planning on drinking that or using that in, like, a bath or something, you need to be extra careful that the water that you are using has not spoiled. And I know you'd be thinking, like, spoiled? How does water spoil? There's bacteria in water. And there's bacteria, well, in the air, literally everywhere. But you want to make sure that when you have something like that, you are, you know, if you want to do moon water so that you can drink it, get yourself a bottle of water from the store, don't open it, and put it out, you know, put it to be charged by the moon. So that's the easiest way to do it. And then you can drink that water. So generally, if you are putting water into a receptacle for that to be moon or rain or whatever your purpose is, don't drink it. Don't put it in a bath, because there are pathogens that can be found out there that can make you very sick.
Just be smart and be safe. And I mean, I'm not talking about being paranoid or whatever, but just be smart and safe about shit.
Yeah. And that being said, like, next on the mom train of pieces of this, not just don't believe everything you read, but don't believe everything you see. Not everything is a sign. Sometimes things just happen. Yeah. Like, did you find a gray feather on the ground? It could be a sign indicating that peace is coming your way. Or it could just be that you're near a nest of pigeons. We literally have pigeons that roost outside our house, and we find gray feathers all the time. So finding a gray feather is really nice, but not necessarily magical. But also look for synchronicities. If you find a feather on the ground after each time you do a magical session or a meditation or something, that could be a sign. And bad things in your life are not a sign that someone has hexed you.
Yeah.
I'm going to actually say that again. Bad things that happen in your life are not a sign that someone has hexed you. sometimes bad things just happen. If you're not sure if something is a sign or not, write it down. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but write it down and then, like, you know, see what the common thread there is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, tip number 7. Learn more about your craft.
Yeah. Study.
Yeah, so research
Everything.
is key. Read
All
up
the
on
time.
stuff that you're curious about or things that resonate with you. If you don't know how to even begin to research, check out your local library. A lot of libraries have the ability for you to reserve books as well. Most libraries will not give the list of books that you're checking out to, like, your parents if you're concerned about something like that. If you're, like, in a, position where you're in the broom closet. You can also get books on Kindle, which is which is obviously, like, you can have, you can have, like, a Kindle, but you can also just, like, use the app on your phone there. Physical books, websites, blogs, social media posts, people that you know in the witchy space, your friends, podcasts like us, YouTube, also like us, all have info. But that doesn't mean that you see one article or you read one book and that's the answer. You gotta, I always try to use the rule of 3. I'm going to look at 3 different things about this one thing that I'm trying to research, and then I'm going to decide if I need to know more about that or if those things have given it to me. And if all 3 things are telling me the same thing, then I know that I'm looking at some good information. But if I'm seeing 3 different things, then I want to keep going. And you should also research deities and spirits and entities that you want to work with if you decide to work with them. You want to, before you call upon an entity, to research them. You want to know as much as you can about them before you start working with them. You want to know their general disposition, what things that people call upon them for, their likes, their dislikes, their preferred offerings, any risks of working with them, any specific rewards, other people's personal experiences, because you don't want to be invoking something into your life that's actually going to be not that great for you. And it seems like super metal, like, let's summon Lilith or Baphomet, but maybe that's not really the deity, the entity that's going to work well for you. And that's not even, like, it could be really bad and possess you. That's just a generality.
You think before you act on a bunch of shit, right?
Yeah.
So think before you magic or whatever.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, a lot of this shit is honestly fairly self-explanatory.
Yeah.
But it does need to be said because, we get sort of caught up in it sometimes, and we don't realize that maybe we're partaking in a practice or an understanding or a psychology or a thought that's just, like, absurd.
Yeah, totally. So a lot of people also ask how to write a spell. And as far as researching, there's a lot of different ways that you can do it, but here's the way that I like to do it. So I start by looking up correspondences for the intent of the spell. And for this, I'm going to use the same example of a protection spell. So in doing some research for this, there's a ton of things. This is by no means an exhaustive list of the stuff, because I wasn't going to sit here and read like 30 different herbs to you guys.
It's true, she wasn't.
So some herbs that you can use for protection are bay, blackberry, cactus, carnation, cinnamon, clover, dragon's blood, ivy, oak, sea salt. Yes, I know sea salt isn't an herb. You're welcome. It's a plant. I categorize that there. So of those things, like,
you got one of them salt plants growing?
I got a salt plant.
I got a water salt plant. It makes ocean salt, motherfucker. Don't even worry about that.
So, of that list, like, it's pretty easy to, like, look up these correspondences and go, oh, like, I've got that at home. Or, like, whoa, I've never read that. I've never seen that before. Like, dragon's blood is an herb. I'm gonna tell you, I've been practicing magic for, like, 20 years. I don't know. I'm more than 20 years, like 30 years. I've been practicing magic. I don't know what dragon's blood is. I've never held dragon's blood as an herb in my hand. I couldn't begin to tell you what that even is.
Well, you see, what you do is you find yourself a lizard what with has taken to the sky and started breathing fire. Then what you do is you stab it in the fucking neck, and you just drain the gloop out, and that gloop right there, we call that shit blood.
Yeah.
And we call flying lizards with fire faces dragons. You got yourself right there.
So,
Bowl
like,
full of dragon blood.
if you have a spell that's asking... So, like, if you see a spell and you want to do that spell, and that spell's telling you dragon's blood, do some research and use one of those other protection herbs that I said instead.
Yeah, well, yeah. This is the thing, right? If you look up, like, an herbology list from a magical standpoint, you're gonna see, okay, you're doing a money spell, it's asking for rose quartz. You don't got fucking rose quartz, right? So when you look at rose quartz, it's gonna use a series of words to describe what it can do. You find the one that equals money shit, then you find another rock that you have that equals money shit of equal or lesser value.
Yeah. As far as rocks go, for protection spell, you can use carnelian or quartz. Clear quartz is basically like the catch-all. Jade, labradorite, onyx, pearl, turquoise, ruby, and zoisite. Which is like an exotic stone for me, and that's what
zoisite.
So, ruby and zoisite. Oh. It's actual rubies, and it's in like a green like stone. It's really pretty. Zoisite. So if a spell is calling, same thing for the herbs. If a spell is calling for you to use some sort of rock, and you don't have that rock, try using a different rock. There's other rocks. For protection spells, for colors, you can use black and light blue and white. If you want to do it in conjunction with a specific phase of the moon, you would be looking at doing it with a full moon. And then you can look at like animals. So protection animals are cats, dogs, dolphins, dragon, raven, a seal. Like not the guy that sings Kiss from a Rose, the other kind of seal.
There's no other kind of seal. There's just one.
There can be only one.
I fucking love that song, dude. Dude, I remember doing like a full-ass English like breakdown in high school of that song in like English class, like my senior year or whenever the heck we did it, where they're like, we're gonna break this song down. We gotta understand what its similes and metaphors are and shit. Yeah, dude, I remember that shit. That song. I know too much about it.
And you can use other things too. You can use like symbols or sigils. You can use runes. You can use found items like small toys, little pictures, whatever you want. But what I do is I look when I'm creating a spell and see what's recommended. And then I narrow it down to the stuff I have access to. And then I narrow that down further to decide what I want to use. You'd really be surprised how much stuff that is like a spell component that you already have in your house, or that you can very easily get. So once I've done that, I look up spells that other people have done to sort of see like what are they saying, what are they doing, how long is it, like what do they got there, and then use that to write your own spell. And your spell can be simple, or it can be complex. It can be poetry, it can rhyme, or it can be plain words. It can be long, or it can be short. It's whatever it is that you think is going to work for you. If you don't want to deal with a super short spell because you think that you really want the pomp and circumstance of like a full-on thing, then do a big full-on thing. But don't be afraid to think outside the cauldron, right? So, one thing that you can also do is you can, especially, this is something that will work especially well for people that are in the broom closet, is find a way to make it a disguised part of your routine. So, like, I put together a quick dinner ritual for protection. So this is protection tacos. You guys are welcome. Wear a color associated with protection. Wear black or light blue or white or all of those or none of those, whatever you want. And wear that color while you're making yourself dinner. And for dinner, you're going to make yourself tacos, whatever protein you want there. But if you've got cumin, garlic, lettuce, lime, onion, all those are protection-based herbs or foods, so all of those work. So make your tacos, season them with some cumin and some garlic, put some lettuce on there, squeeze a lime, some chopped onions, and eat those tacos. Leave out a bit of a taco as an offering next to a figurine. I think it's the light. The battery is dying.
I don't. Yeah, but it's not that. Whatever. Okay.
Maybe it's a time-based thing.
Fuck
I don't
that
know.
light.
Sorry, guys. It just went strobe light on us. So you got your tacos. Leave some out as an offering next to a figurine of a protection animal or just somewhere where you do your offerings. You don't need to leave a whole taco. I usually leave a small bite of something out as an offering. I don't leave like a giant thing. But if you want to leave a whole taco out, go ahead. But that's one less taco you get to eat. And watch a movie about like knights in shining armor or something that means protection to you. Like, and then use that as your protection ritual. Simple. Easy. There you go.
Yeah.
Done. So, do your research. Figure
Study
it
up.
out.
Write
Yeah,
shit
study
down.
up.
Yeah, study your shit up.
Yeah, it usually takes me a couple of hours or a couple of days to do research for a spell. It takes me a while.
Yeah.
And
took
then
us 3 fucking years to name the house we live in. Mm-hmm. Right?
All right. Well, that takes us to our next point.
Yeah, we're back.
Which is tip number 8. Write it down.
Yeah, write that shit down.
Write it down. Like when you're reading like a book or like you're watching a movie or something and like somebody goes into like a library or they like find a book and it's like the grimoire of like some famous or ancient wizard or witch and then the character uses those spells. Do that. I mean, I guess you could find like a crazy book, but like start writing your own. Why not? I mean, it seems very mundane, but like that's how that stuff like works, you know? So my recommendation is that you get yourself 2 books. You get yourself a book of shadows and a book that'll be your grimoire. So these are both blank books. So what I recommend is use the grimoire for correspondences and references, like templates. If you've come up with like a spell that you really like or like your Sabbat ritual, like write that in your grimoire. That's for stuff that's like reference, basically. Textbook. And then use your Book of Shadows to write down what it is that you're actually doing in your magical practice. Make your Book of Shadows like your journal. And it doesn't need to be like a pretty book unless you want one. But a pretty book can be really hard to write in for fear of messing it up. I am super feeling that. Like, I get like a pretty book and then I'm just like, oh, I want to write in it, but like I need to like write it perfectly and I need to like plan out what pages go where and stuff.
Yeah, you don't need to do that.
You don't need to do that. Use whatever it is that you're comfortable with using. You could use a binder and binder paper, because then you can rearrange stuff and you can add like tabs or whatever. It can be like a bound notebook or like a fancy bound book. It can be like a document that you write on your laptop or whatever and like save it in like a folder or like your Google Drive. Heck, it can even be on your notes app on your phone. Like, just write it down, because writing it down is going to help you to know how your spells are working and to know what it is that you did. Like, I especially like using it on pulling tarot cards. Like, recently, so back in the summer, I pulled some tarot cards for a friend, and then recently that same friend has had some changes happen in their life, and I went back and looked at the cards that I pulled for them and was like, oh, wow, okay, like, I see how this is, like, how these cards, like, told me what was going to happen and what is actually, like, happening with that, you know? So it not only is, like, for you for reference, but it also helps you to look back and see not just like the accuracy, but to see how things are manifesting. You know, so write it down. I know you were started recently writing stuff down.
Yeah, so the thing with writing it down, the kind of like coolest thing with writing it down is that you can kind of find whatever formulation works best for you. So I have tried to, I have bought every dope looking journal you can think of. Mm-hmm. I have tried so many times. I've done a ton of traveling in my life. I have been to Europe several times with my family and like, I have always thought of like, oh, it'd be so cool to like keep a journal. And I have zero desire to keep a journal. I don't care. Right. And the crazy part is that I'm a writer. Like, I write a lot, but I just don't, like, what I do is sort of, I don't fucking care. Right? I can't keep a journal. And it's the same thing with, like, I always did just sort of rune readings, for a long time and early in my, like, magical career, for a lack of better words. And, I would just like pull runes and read them and then be done with that.
Yeah.
Right? I never kept any records of anything or anything like that. It was just like a spur of the moment thing. And then Julie got me into tarot, and I have a concerning number of tarot cards, and I have a problem. It's cool. So like she writes everything down, and I've tried in fits and starts, and like for me, when I write like horror short stories. I write on my phone most of the time.
Yeah.
Because for me, inspiration is like a bolt of lightning. It's like I got to start writing right now, and then I'll just write. And sometimes I'll write, I mean, it'll hit me like a Saturday morning, and I'll write for like 3 hours on my phone.
Yeah.
Like, just non-stop pacing around the house, just writing. And so, like, I've tried so hard to get that to work for tarot, to be able to write down, like, what the reading is and all that. And I honestly only got into it because I bought this Star Trek-themed Starfleet Command journal where you have, like, the star date and, like, it's like the captain's log. It's this, like, dumb little cardboard journal thing that we got at, like, a used bookstore or some shit like that. And, it's so perfect to write in, man. I fucking love it. And it has, like, little spaces that I've defined for where I'm gonna write certain things, and it just works, and it's nice, and it's not just me writing. Like, when I write stuff down, I have a very specific structure for the way I write. I brew a lot. Yeah. And I do, like, a lot of the kind of sciences that require psychotic amounts of notation. Yeah. So I'm, like, very specific when I do notation. But, like, I have that, and then every inch of the page that isn't my very specific style of notation is just, like, sketches and symbols and drawings and runes and shit that I was just vibing on while I was doing the reading. And it's awesome, and I super enjoy it. And to be perfectly frank, I think what helped get me into it was the Inktober.
Oh, yeah.
Really refining my art style in Inktober. So, I mean, you know, really the thing is write everything down, like, keep a record, you know, it'll help you refine your craft, but also look to outside sources for things that can help you develop where that craft is going to be. Yeah. I mean, if it weren't for Inktober, I would not have defined my art style as much as I had. Yeah. Because by the end, it was very clear what my style of art was. And I'd never had that sort of clarity before with being able to, like, write, like, art off the cuff, draw off the cuff. Between Inktober and NaNoWriMo for writing and for art, I've been able to express my magical practice in a much more specific and refined and intentive way, which is sort of one of those interesting things where it's like, by writing it down, even if what I was writing down was just like a bunch of prompts from the internet, right, or whatever, it allowed me to improve to a point where I'm able to do this more efficiently. And where I'm more comfortable with it, and where I appreciate the work I'm doing, and I'm not forcing myself to do it. Because if you're doing something and you don't want to do it, I can't stress this enough, don't do it. If you don't want to do a thing, don't do a thing. Like, don't do that thing if you don't want to do it, especially about magic. Yeah. Don't do magical shit that if you're like, I don't know about that shit, don't fucking do it. Do the research until you feel okay with that shit, or find some other shit. Yeah. Like, it's high risk. You know, low reward, high risk. Don't do it. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, that's part of it. It's just like, find the things that you love and then do them. Whatever. Yeah. You know all the sayings.
Was that from our friend Always Be? Oh man, what was the E?
Oh, I have no fucking... I don't remember.
I forgot. Our friend Abe Lincoln, always be excelling. So tip number...
Always be Excelsior. Excelsior!
Yeah, Excelsior. Always be Eureka? No. Always be...
Eritrean. That food is delicious.
That food is delicious.
Goddamn. Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay, I don't remember. Anyway, 9. Number 9. Find friends in your space. And this works just as well if you're in the broom closet. Because you might have a witchy friend in real life that you can talk to. It's really helpful, even if you consider yourself in the broom closet and you're afraid to talk to somebody about it, or if you consider yourself solitary practitioner. It's helpful to find people out there who are receptive to your practice and that you can talk to. And if you decide that you want to do magic with them, then you totally can, but you don't necessarily need to do that, and that's fine. It doesn't have to be something so structured as a coven, or anything like that. I've actually never joined a coven, per se.
Sure,
but
yeah.
I do have a lot of friends that I can talk to, and, don't underestimate the power of the internet. You can find people that don't know you, that you're just like a profile picture.
We can be your friends. If you want to talk about crazy witchy stuff and just, like, chit-chat.
Yeah, man. We would love to be your friends.
Like, DM us on
Clearly,
on
we
Insta
like talking about
Facebook
this stuff a lot, and so much so that we made a podcast.
Yeah, dude, I can't tell you how many friends we have that we talk to specifically about magical practice with regard to, like, maybe doing drawings for them and stuff like that, or like, they have a thing or a feeling or a vibe or whatever, and they just kind of want to talk it out.
Yeah,
and it's like, friends shouldn't pressure you.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
like, make sure that when you find friends in a space, and especially on the internet, and especially nowadays, and all the fucking... but, like, make sure people aren't taking advantage of you. If you find somebody that's supportive and good for you on the internet, but it feels like you're being taken advantage of, seek somebody else out, get verification, and if it's not safe or not cool, don't do it. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, the point is like find friends, but friends help each other. Friends don't pressure each other.
Mm-hmm.
Friends don't put each other down or make each other feel bad. That's not how that fucking works.
Yeah. And I mean, you can find a lot of friends on the internet, so, don't underestimate that.
Oh my God, yeah, use the internet.
You can use
dude,
TikTok and Reddit,
friends.
Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, literally all of the social media ones have places that you can connect with like-minded witchy people. Yeah. But,
if you are in the broom closet, maybe consider starting a second specifically witchy Instagram.
Yeah, or something along those lines.
We know several
people
a bunch of people actually who their Instagrams are separate from their, like, witchy Instagrams, and it's a pretty good idea, in fact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, that doesn't mean that you can't talk to people who aren't witchy about witchy stuff. I have friends that are not witchy at all, and I can talk to them about witchy stuff just like they can talk to me about their choice of religion. I don't try to pressure them into it. They don't try to pressure me into anything. And, I'm not bringing it up all the time. It's part of a healthy friendship as well. So just because you may not know anybody in person that's witchy doesn't mean that you can't talk to someone about it.
Yeah, I mean, faith is faith, and, like, not everybody's gonna agree. So we have to be cool with, and I love talking to people who disagree with me about, well, almost everything, because I'm super confrontational. But, no, especially about this kind of stuff, because it makes for introspective thought.
Yeah. Now, that being said, don't keep somebody around or a group of people around because that's all that you've got. If they're toxic, even if it's just to keep up with their drama. It's like that law of attraction thing. You don't want to keep perpetuating that kind of negativity or drama in your life.
Well, pieces of shit are going to be pieces of shit.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what that is.
I mean, really, it's like buying a pack of strawberries. Like, you get, like, one of those little plastic clamshells of strawberries from the store, and, like, they all look totally fine. You put them in the fridge, they're just chilling, and then one gets moldy. And then the ones next to the moldy ones start to get soft and moldy, and then the next ones, and the next ones, and the next ones, and it spreads. So, so does negativity. Negativity breeds negativity. And even if you say that you're just watching it for, like, the giggles, because it's funny to see how dysfunctional and, like, messed up people are, like, do you really need that in your life?
Yeah,
like,
man.
is there, I mean, even, if you're spending 5 minutes a day looking at something like that, is that 5 minutes that you would maybe rather be spending somewhere else? Are you, like me, where you say you have so many things that you want to do and you don't have the time, yet you're there and looking at people's drama on the internet for like 15 or 20 minutes a day?
Yeah.
Like, make the conscious decision to step away from that.
Yeah.
And the same thing goes...
Don't judge yourself against those people.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, right? It's easy to point out the friend that, like, oh, you met this person online, or you know this person from high school, or whatever, and or you know this person from college or from an old job or whatever the fuck, and it's like what they're doing and what they're saying online puts you down or makes you feel bad, right? That's the easy one, right? But it's also, don't put yourself in a place where you're constantly looking at whether it's a witchy person or a model or a race car driver or anything in the world, Fortune 500 CEO, it doesn't matter, whatever the heck, and you dwell on feeling bad by looking at their content, right? I mean, if something's deleteriously affecting your mental health, then you need to find a way to like sort of either extradite yourself from that situation or become okay with it.
Yeah.
But it's that idea that you need to find people in your space and you need to have you need to make sure that you're not bringing drama into your stuff. And even if it doesn't feel like you're bringing drama into it, but you know that every time you see this person's post, you feel like shit because you're not doing the thing that you said you were going to do at the beginning of the year or whatever, well then just fucking stop looking at their shit, dude. Right? Because you don't gain anything from negative emotions.
Yeah.
I say this all the time, right? There's no benefit in being upset at somebody and not action, right? Like an actionable problem, you come up with a solution for it, you make action, you resolve that problem. And sometimes resolving that problem is legitimately just being like, that all of that shit is over there and it's not over here anymore. We now have distance. It's not my problem. I'm done, right?
Well, the same goes for like people that you follow that like you kind of hate.
Yeah.
Or people who just like
don't get caught up in internet drama. I can't stress this enough.
Especially
it
those
doesn't
people
matter.
who are like,
nobody cares what happens, what famous people are doing. None of it matters. It doesn't matter whether it's good or bad or left or right or red or blue. It's just a famous person. Yeah. And we don't need to make ourselves feel bad because some fucking famous person, some emotion. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's really what it comes down to.
Well, and I mean, even if they're not famous, like, that same thing goes for, like, those groups of people or just people in general that are like, I'm gonna hex this group or this object. Like, that's not what a hex is. That's not how that stuff works. Like, don't keep that kind of, like,
this negative energy, dude.
Stuff. Like,
yeah.
Don't keep those moldy strawberries in your fridge, honey.
Yeah, real talk, dude. Toss those strawberries.
Yeah. So, the last point, and actually I think the most important one, really, is don't give up.
Yeah, never give up, never surrender.
Yeah, never give up, never surrender.
Yeah. Like Reptar's hammer, or whatever the fuck.
So, I mean, it can be really easy to, like, look at somebody's post or hear what results somebody had from a spell that they did and to feel like your spells aren't working or aren't working as well. Some spells are slower working than others. Don't keep judging yourself against that. Some spells have more subtle results, and some spells backfire or just don't work at all. Like, that's a thing that just happens. So, you don't have to worry about that. Your spells are your spells, and there's nothing that you need to do about that other than just keep yourself positive and keep yourself motivated. Like, think about your intentions for the spell and if it didn't work and where your head was when you were doing that spell. Were you distracted? Were you like doubtful that it wouldn't work? You know, were you, you know, maybe just like having a bad day or something? You know, make sure that you're writing that spell down in your book of shadows. Periodically go back and update that page with what your perceived results of the spell were. So like if you did a spell jar, first of all, write that down in your book of shadows, write down your little protection spell jar or whatever it is. And, you know, when you feel like you see it working, write that down. If it's been like a week and you're not noticing anything, write that down too. You know, it's, there are things that you don't necessarily see, like, because you're in it all the time. And then you go back and you look at it and you're like, oh wow, that actually did do something for me. You know? And then just keep working at it. Magic is like a muscle. Every time you work it, it gets stronger. Every time you do a spell, your spells do better.
It's
every
called
time.
Practice.
Yeah.
Practice it.
Yeah, just like a workout
stuff.
though. Give yourself time to rest. Casting a spell, doing a ritual takes like a toll. It's almost like a little hangover that you get in a way from it. Like, allow yourself time to rest.
And don't rush yourself for a deadline. I mean, really, the thing is that when you're practicing whatever you're practicing, whether it's some sort of religion or some sort of worship or some sort of magic or some sort of whatever, when you're doing something, right, you need to be in the space to do that, right? You don't need to follow a calendar, you know, and you need to be okay with, and you know, this is one of those things where sometimes you see it a lot on the internet, people get real caught up in specificity, right? But it's like, listen, if your stew that you want to use for a ritual isn't going to be ready until the day after whatever the hell the date for some Sabbath is, then do it the day after. Like, that's fine. That's when it's ready, man. You know? Like, don't build barriers against yourself.
Yeah,
right.
We rarely do our Sabbath stuff actually on the Sabbath.
Oh my god!
Or if
yeah,
we're
it's
doing
so
like
with
moon
the timing,
magic,
or because a chicken decided to start being a piece of shit, or what the heck ever. Yeah, you have to understand that there is practical perfection, and then there's practical reality, right? There's this whatever, like, sort of bold CGI, like, kind of big brain idea of what you want to accomplish from a specific thought or task or idea or series of events or whatever the hell, right? Or ritual or magic or what have you, spell, right? And then there's the reality of what actually unfolds. Maybe you stutter over a word, right? Maybe the day before you find some feathers, but it doesn't mean nothing. And sometimes the day before you find some feathers and that shit hits you like a ton of bricks. And sometimes you do a thing and you don't really see anything come of it. And then like a month later or a couple of weeks later or whatever, you sort of look back at it and like, you know, maybe you get back to your altar space or you go out to where you did a thing or what have you, and you realize that, like, you know, you were coming into this whole thing with just like a lot of rage and hate that wasn't necessary, or maybe you were coming into this thing with a desperation and a fear because you had just got whatever bad news or whatever, and nothing happened because the best result would be that nothing happened. Like, I say this all the time to people, be okay with failure, because we learn more from failure as a scientist and from a scientific perspective, and I approach everything that way.
It's so true. It's so true. And when you tell me that, and it has to do with something where, like, I am like, oh no, I failed at something, I get super mad.
Yeah,
I get very upset.
It's very
when you
upsetting
tell me to be okay with failure, because I'm like, no,
it's very upsetting
accept this.
to be told that, and it's very upsetting to. This is the thing, right? We have to individually, each one of us, have to admit to whatever that shit is that you don't want to admit to. That little blue dress that you have at the back of your closet with like the gold fringe, and it's got like the shoulders, but like you think you can do the shoulders, you think you can pull them off. Well, that shit looks dumb on you. The shoulders are a little clowny, right? And like you don't want to believe it, and like your friend kind of hinted at it that one time, but like you don't want to believe it, and it's that thing. And the crazy part is that we get taught this very often, right? I mean, it's the moral of like 50% of rom-coms, to be completely fucking frank, right? But it's a moral that we're often taught, but we don't often want to internalize, because it's one thing to make a mistake, and it's another thing to admit, and not just be like, you're right, I made a mistake, but really understand, like, listen, I was upset when I started doing this, and I was moving a little fucking rashly, and I knocked the fucking glass over, and it spilled on the laptop, and like my keys aren't sticky because a beer spilled. My keys are sticky because I made a mistake. I made an irrational decision and I overreacted, and I need to not do that, and I have to learn from this. That takes effort. That takes a lot of effort and time. And that's where all 10 of these fucking things will help you with this. And this is as much a part of your life outside of practice as it is part of your life inside of practice, is that you need to be okay with sometimes your tarot deck's gonna tell you to shut the fuck up because you're being a piece of shit. And sometimes your spell isn't gonna work because you're just being a vindictive prick because you're upset. And it's fine to be upset. We're all human. We all feel things, right? But we also have to know when we are making decisions based on feelings as opposed to decisions based on what we know is the right decision to make. And I'm not saying that sometimes people don't deserve to be cursed, because fuck those motherfuckers. Like, that shit is real, dog, right? Fuck some motherfuckers. 100%, right? But that's the difference, is that we need to have, and part of that, don't give up. And really the point of all these 10 is that we need to admit to ourselves, the most important person to you is you. And if you aren't your best friend and your closest confidant and your seat of confidence and wisdom and stuff like that, you risk making mistakes and taking advantage of and being taken advantage of and all these things. And when sometimes something will happen and it's not gonna be good, but in the long run it means something good because you had the opportunity to learn. Don't let failure not be educational, because then you just failed and you have the right to be upset about that. But if you can take that failure and you can convert it, you can learn from it, then you become better because of it and more because of it, then that wasn't truly a failure. It was a success because you became a better person. And that's the way that you need to look at these things, and the way that you need to study your craft, and the way that you need to accept failures and changes and adaptations and misunderstandings and misgivings and changes in whatever the fuck, because real life changes. If we have learned anything in the last 12 fucking months, it has been that sometimes shit just doesn't make any sense for so long and with so many people that you're like, what if I stayed in my fucking house because fuck outside of this place? And that's real life. You know, that's 100%.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so the goal with 2021 is recognizing that and growing from it, right? Recognize everything and grow from it. And, you know, we just kind of rapid succession 10 things to you. And, you know, we told you our opinions of it, but part of this and part of this podcast is you telling us your opinions on it. What do you think of the 10? How do you feel about any of the things that we said? If you disagree, that's good.
What was your favorite
Disagreement's
tip?
Educational. Yeah, what was your favorite tip? What was some shit that you've been striving at for a while that you just haven't really locked in, you know?
Are you now going to try to do a protection taco dinner ritual?
I mean, tacos are always good. Taco Tuesdays.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, and, you know, so I guess really the best way to put it is that, like, these were 10 tips to make your new year more magical. To give you a magical new year.
Yeah.
Right? And to sort of wrap things up rather bluntly, keep working. Keep learning, keep trying, and inevitably everybody can find success. And if your success doesn't look the same as somebody else's, that's all right, man. Success is different for everybody. Everybody's different.
Yeah.
You know, and be okay. Celebrate our differences. Celebrate what makes us special, right? Like, don't rely on what other people are telling you about that stuff as we tell you about that stuff. But
yeah.
Either fucking way, right? I've been John Norgrove. This has been Julie.
Hi.
We are, and this is the Horn and
Cauldron podcast.
Yeah. And you know what?
We hope you enjoyed this episode.
Yeah.
Like this, comment, share it, subscribe it, leave us a review on the podcast stuff.
Tell us what you want to learn
Tell
about.
us what you
want to
learn about.
These things. Follow us on social. We'll start doing that.
Yeah, check out nerdjive.com, which is the main website that we run. That'll take you to all of our social media stuff, as well as the notes for the show and a way to get a hold of us. And we hope that our 4 listeners check in with us next time.
Yeah. Stay magical, dogs.
Stay magical.